And we are live. Finally, I have been waiting for this webinar forever, and we are now live. We will give people like a few minutes to get in, but we are very excited today for presenting that it's time for SaaS to go upmarket expert panel that we will have today. And we have several guests, as you can see. I'm pointing the wrong way, this way. We have several guests, and we will do intros very shortly. I'm just letting people sort of come into the webinar properly. And we will start in like 30 seconds to really get us started into the topic today. But very, very excited about what we will discuss today. Great. So let's do some agenda for today. We have an hour, which is how long we will last this conversation. And the first step is obviously to get ready for the topic. We will talk about that it's time for SaaS to go up market. We will have an expert panel, which is our guest that will come to introduction very soon. And what we will do now is that we will go into first intros. I will let our guests introduce themselves. And then we will dive into some challenges of the market. We will give some advice, the best advice for you guys. And then we will have Q&A at the end. But from a hygienic perspective in the webinar, when you have questions, there's a question tab. You can put your question in there. And if you have questions during the webinar, I will either take the question and say it to the experts here, or we will wait with that question to the end of the webinar. But it depends on what the question is. So let's see how good questions you guys can ask today. And with that in mind, I would like to say hi to our guests. And I would also like to do an intro for each of us. I will do an intro to start, and then I think Markus should go, and then George could go. So my name is Sarah Storm. I have been in revenue for 22 years now, almost 23. I'm getting older. It's amazing. And I have the last 10, 12 years been in SaaS, working with companies that provide marketing and sales technology of different kinds. I've done all the roles from SDR, booking meetings, to being an AE, closing deals, to being a VP sales and a CRO. And in many of these companies, I have seen a lot of different sales methodologies and a lot of different marketing approaches, which is very interesting considering the topic today. And me and George run a company called Break the Box. We're hosting the webinar today, where we support SaaS companies with getting their stuff together for revenue, which is challenging in many, many ways. So that was all for me. I will now hand over to Markus to do his intro. Go ahead, Markus.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sarah. So thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. Yeah, so now my name is Markus Ståhlberg. I'm the CEO of N.Rich, an account-based marketing platform. I've been working with complex sale and marketing, like I'd say from, maybe 20 years or something like that. I look at I'm really like my background is an engineer, but I'm like a wannabe marketer. So I've been like really working with a lot of things around marketing, like a serial entrepreneur, several different companies, and obviously as an entrepreneur, I did a lot of sales myself, and I've been witnessing this gap between sales and marketing forever in B2B. It just doesn't go anywhere, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion. So I'm N.Rich is so we work with companies who want to go up market. So this is a very good area or arena to discuss these challenges and issues which we see happening day in, day out. It's not just the CMOs issue, it's also the CEOs and CROs and the sales leaders. So it's really a company-wide issue, and really looking forward to discussing this topic.
Perfect, Markus. Thank you so much, George. Let's go ahead.
Let's do that. That is me. So my name is George. I have also been in revenue, sales and marketing operations for, 22 years. We have a panel with over 60 years of commercial experience, which I think is super cool, quite rare. That people have the resilience to stay in that bracket for so long. But I've also been through all roles from SDR to sales enablement to senior account, enterprise sales, VP sales, CRO, what have you, everything in between. I've also done B2B SaaS consultancy. This is the second time now with Break the Box, and also part of what we do with companies is exactly ABX or ABS and ABM setup, exactly because there is a big need for, specifically for SaaS companies, but in the market in general, to go upstream or to move as close to mid-segment up to enterprise as possible, given the shape of the market. I'm super interested in discussing the sales and marketing collaboration. I've been in many management meetings where I have been the very traditional, very annoying commercial responsible VP sales CRO that says to marketing, we don't, the leads are shit, you're not giving us anything. The campaign is not working for the last month, we need to put it down, stuff like that. But there is, I understand the last 5 years, there is a lot more nuance to this. And as Markus said, account-based sales or an account-based approach to your revenue is, it used to be a competitive advantage a few years ago. And now it's becoming more of a do or die situation as we progress. So looking forward to that. And that's me.
Thank you so much. And I would like to add a thing. I just realized when we're sitting in this webinar now live, that maybe not everyone knows what account-based sales and marketing is either. That's a definition question, right? So I think that we should give a definition here. And I will let Markus do the definition on the marketing side, so account-based marketing, from his expertise working with customers doing this on the marketing side. And then me and George will come in with a definition of ABS, or account-based sales, because these two obviously need to work together, but there are a few separators or differences between these two approaches, even though they should be run parallelly. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Markus, to take the definition of account-based marketing. And we start by educating our audience first before we dive into this.
Well, this is a super tricky one because there are many definitions of what ABM means. I'll let George define ABS in more detail, and I'll try to define the kind of the big picture here, because I don't personally I don't really kind of see that. Let's put it this way. So you have this school of people who look at account-based marketing as a marketing tactic, so or like a channel, or like more like a kind of something that happens within marketing in terms of like targeting specific, just one or a few specific accounts with very like tailored, personalized campaigns and content, and like with multiple channels. This is like a good strategy or good approach in general, but that's not what I would call ABM, because ABM, in my view, is a go-to-market strategy. And actually, like account-based marketing is like probably not the right word for that. You should use account-based go-to-market, or ABX, for it rather. And again, I'm not going to go to the sales part of this, but like generally, ABX. Or account-based go-to-market consists of account-based marketing and account-based sales. And just very briefly, what account-based marketing from marketing perspective means is that like you need to have a very clearly defined ICP. And this doesn't mean ICP meaning like a company like definition, like which kind of companies you want to get business with, during the next 2 years or so. And this can't be some kind of wishy-washy, like let's just invent something, but really that we commit to targeting these accounts for and investing to these accounts tens of thousands per month or like per year, whatever. So it's a super important thing to define it properly, and then align basically your entire marketing process around those accounts. So it might be 1,000 accounts, it might be 2,000 accounts, and then everything else kind of becomes noise within this motion. So you don't care about let's say you have 100,000 visitors on your website. You don't care about those, rest apart from these accounts, if they visit those. So you should build everything around that. That's what ABM, at least in my definition, means. Perfect.
George, do you want to jump in on the ABX side? Can I just say one thing before? So when we say ABX, that means both. It means like a full motion, right? Just to clarify. So ABS is account-based sales, ABM, account-based marketing, ABX, we will have a lot of abbreviations. I will do some translation. And ICP means ideal customer profile, which is a company profile that fits whatever you're selling to the market. And of course, when we do account-based anything, we go even a lot deeper than most companies do today to understand what is the perfect fit accounts for us, not just a market share. So with that, I will hand over to George, this way, here, to give us a definition of account-based sales.
Yes. So I first want to start by saying that account-based ideal customer profiles and all of that sort of segment of terminology are some of the most misunderstood, misinterpreted, and most horribly implemented strategies that I've ever seen in any business. I'm not only talking about SaaS now. We've been at events where we ask people what their ideal customer profile is, and they say companies with 5,000 employees. This is a company size, not an ICP, just to be clear. So to define ABS or account-based sales in a very simplistic manner, it's the equivalent. It's the exact opposite of spray and pray. So it's the opposite of volume versus over quality. It's the new way to approach sales, moving from the boiler rooms in the 80s, where but 3,000 yeses lead to 3,000 no's lead to a yes, like that type of mentality. Because you might think that since it's in the 80s, it's not done anymore. Well, I can guarantee you it is done in every second company. We call everyone, we pursue 3, 4, 5, 6 days every inbound lead, regardless of what they are. And the argument usually from sales is, well, we have a big target, we need to try everything. And the point, the problem with that logic is that this is a lack of understanding of how customer acquisition cost works, how time investment works, how much these hours that we're wasting on an SMB customer affects our performance, company performance, organization performance. So I would say ABS is about having a qualitative and targeted approach to which accounts or which customers, to make it simpler, you pursue. Either that is, as Markus said, from traffic on your website, or it is when you reach out yourself to customers proactively. Where do you invest your time and why? And that comes usually either from historical data, what type of accounts you did well with consistently the past years, or if you're a newer company, based on your value proposition, what customers would have the largest benefit from your services, and those are the only ones that you actually prioritize. So that is, in a nutshell, kind of big nutshell, but still, what ABS is.
Thank you so much. And I want to add a story here, because I started working with ABS like way before it was a name or a thing even. And I remember when I started in SaaS 2012, I had what I called like a want list of accounts, like companies that I really wanted to work with when I started my first software gig. And we're talking 20 accounts, 20 companies that first year that I worked. I had a big hit list of other things, like other companies that was ICP match, that was within specific sectors, etc. But I also had those 20. And my goal was, as an individual contributor now, to talk to the leaders of who work in sales now. I think my goal was to open dialogues with those accounts. I didn't even have as a goal to close them, because they were all high ACV, so high contract value, high ticket value. And I knew it wouldn't be like I call them and they will just agree to a meeting and close the deal. I knew they would be sort of a process that took a bit longer and also required a bigger buy-in committee to get and accept to do what I wanted to do. And I was selling a small platform at the time. But I also realized that when I go towards those accounts, I am able to increase what I sell from a concept perspective a lot, because I was able to create a user base in the account when I was selling to them that was a lot bigger, which led to a lot higher ticket item for those accounts. And my goal was to just talk to them. Not even sell to them, just get into a room and talk to the decision makers that was there and talk to their teams and understand what was going on. And that was 2012. And for me, when I've gone into a new role as a salesperson, I've always had a want list every year. Like, these are the accounts I want to get those brands. Like, these are the ones I want. And that was related to multiple of different things when I decided on the accounts. One of them was like, they look cool. Again, this is very immature because I was very young. They look cool. I would like that brand in my portfolio. Or they turn over enough for that to mean X, Y, Z. Or they have this problem. I can see it on the data that I can get access to when I do research. They will have a need for this. They will have a want for this, and they will also solve a big issue for them. Or they have an initiative going on this year that is really relevant for what we do. So these were all the different reasons why I chose them. But the interesting thing is that when you have that type of focus, I did a bunch of small deals too with companies coming from a list, right? Again, this is 2012. It felt like yellow pages. It wasn't completely yellow pages. It was very early. And all of these accounts I got to know and I got into. Often the deal would come at the end of that year, because I had to work with them for a couple of months and do workshops and do discussions and do buyer committee meetings and things like that to get them to sign. But those tickets made my year like 60-70% over budget. I took my budget on the normal accounts, and then I just got the extra cake from these accounts. And this is a very interesting way of going about it. And most salespeople still don't even think about this as individual contributors. And a lot of sales managers don't think about this either. That this is, again, it's icing on the cake, but it can be really nice icing, if you guys are with me on what I mean. Great. So I would like to dive into the first conversation starter, and it's going to be pretty rough. And this is a point of view we might share or not. But my first question to the group now is, the SMB market, is it becoming a dead end for SaaS profitability? And SMB, it means small and mid-sized businesses, right? Just to clarify with the abbreviations again. And dead end for SaaS profitability is a bit more complex. Let's dive into it. So Markus, what is your take on this? What do you think will happen to the SMB market for SaaS moving forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this interesting question. First of all, like in terms of being a dead end, like of profitability, like I think growth is also another question there. Like, is it the dead end of growth? So in general, I would say that like there are kind of two ways to approach this question. So either you can approach it in a way that it is like you have to get upmarket because SMB is no longer serving you, like your needs, like either profitability or growth goals or so, or then like you just do a conscious decision that SMB is not for us because of unit economics or like profitability or like other factors. And I think it is an interesting question. Like in general, what we see is that there are different approaches in general to the SMB market. Like especially like if we compare the US SaaS companies and European companies, in Europe, it's far more common to do PLG and this kind of SMB quite a long time before going upmarket. Before like moving to be more sales led, whereas in the US, like many companies start with a more sales led motion, or many companies have this like competence of doing a sales led approach. So then coming to this question, that is it the dead end of profitability? I think you come like you need to think about like the market in general. So how are the dynamics of the SMB market for you? So like typically like it is go to market is more like spray and pray. Like you have big volume instead of high quality. You have low average deal sizes. If you have high churn, then profitability might be an issue. If you need to, invest a lot per account, like in terms of CS, for instance, like that could be an issue in terms of profitability. So I think, like I'd say, still it is really like case by case whether it is a dead end or not in terms of profitability. But I think like for every company, it is a dead end in terms of growth at some point. Like so, at some point, like you can't like you can no longer sustain the growth rates like by only focusing on the SMB market. I love the example from Slack. That is kind of the poster child of PLG. So one could have imagined that Slack can become like go somewhere like $1 billion of ARR or something like with PLG, but they didn't. So at a certain point they had to, I think like they were maybe like 50-60 million or something like that, and they had to like really kind of move to a more like an enterprise upmarket type sales-led motion in order to sustain the growth. So I think that's an important consideration here as well.
I fully understand what you mean, and I'm going to come with a blanket statement, and then I will let George go. So my blanket statement is the following. So hiring and having humans and people spending time and salary costs on a market that doesn't even sustain their salary from a ticket size is not worth it anymore. Like we have customers everywhere, business to business buyers, who's telling us, I do not want to talk to sales for this tiny purchase. And tiny can now mean a SaaS platform, a CRM, like tiny. We're talking ARR, that still is what we would consider a sales-led motion. It should be, but it's not anymore, because the customers are telling us that we would like to just buy the thing I want to buy online. Like, can I please just buy it online? So my prediction here is that the SMB market, and we're not talking top mid segment, we're talking like this part of the market, is going to be a dead end from a perspective of what it costs to spend hours, time, and platforms to drive sales process when the ticket size isn't worth it. Because that we can do completely online, a digital workflow that just allows the customer to buy from us if they want and not buy from us if they don't want to. We shouldn't plug in sales resources there. So my idea is that we will have growing, shrinking sales teams. So the people who will be left standing are the people good at addressing top and mid-market and enterprise. They will be superstars. They will be 5 instead of 30. They will drive a lot more revenue on those 5 people than the 30 did before because of ticket size. And the rest, if you have a PLG motion, that will be your PLG motion. So we're not talking about doing the SMB market is dead from a revenue perspective. We're just talking about that it's dead from a sales team and marketing efforts perspective, right? Because this is a different thing. So that's my statement. So everyone will just lose salespeople because we won't afford to keep them on the low ticket items. George, let's dive in. What do you think?
Okay, I need to unmute. So what I wanted to say is that I agree with both Markus and Sarah, but I have to also add that there are several examples from besides Slack from super huge and very poster boy examples of a PLG product-led growth motion, such as Slack, such as Coursera, as an example, one of the most famous education platforms in the world, right? So, and they still, I was actually listening to a podcast with their CEO about 6 months ago, where he said is that we can't grow anymore. This is, and we are the biggest platform on the planet in our category, but we can't grow anymore. We will leave PLG alone. We will have what we get from there. What we will focus, even from a product development perspective, we will focus on the B2B market, on enterprise, because it's not possible. And I want to add something to what Sarah was talking about when it comes to the cost of acquiring customers. Sales is one part, and sales, salary costs, number of touch points, systems is something that not a lot of people think of, but if they have any considerations about the cons of SMB, it is sales cost. What most people fail to calculate is that even if you onboard them with a no-touch motion from the website, they will still have tickets to your support line. They will still call you. You will still get reviewed based on the quality of that support that could hurt your brand, because you can't you can't delegate resources to a mom and pop shop, because who has that much money to have them on a call for the 3 hours because they forgot their password? Right? Because you need to still service them. Then there is an element of, if you are even in a 30% level focusing on SMB, your product development also needs to follow. You need to build and maintain feature for these guys, which also contributes to technical debt. It contributes to deprioritization of larger ticket items. So if there is a cost hole to in the lack of, or a cost vacuum, in lack of a better term, that is usually hides under the volume that these customers have. So, but there is a lot of them, and we're making X% ARR out of SMB without really doing anything. But the not doing anything is false, because we're looking at it from a sales perspective only. We're not looking at it from a customer success, support, or engineering product perspective. So when it comes to my prediction, I think that even if the point, if not, is not if SMB sales survive, is that if they should in most organizations. It's not only a market problem, because growth, company growth is one thing, and I agree with Markus 100%. We have very many live examples that it's just not doable after a certain level if you want to continue growing. And B, if you're a younger company and you're not as worried about sustained growth, if you have any targets that have to do with predictable revenue, since SMB has insane churn, because look, everything that you buy for 300 euro a year, you don't really care about. You might continue, or you might not continue, or you might pick something that costs 280 instead of 300, right? You might also go out of business if you're a 3-people company. Like, all of these things happen. So it's usually decent effort, low value and high risk segment to address. This is why I believe companies need to start going upstream as fast as they can, actually, in the current market.
Thank you. I have a question from the audience that I actually think we should address. So we are asked, how can we be sure we're ready for upmarket, right? If we try to not be ready, it's more likely to cause damage or to be a good experience for future attempts. I think bad experience for future attempts.
Can I take this? So you will never feel ready to go upmarket. It starts from strategy, but when it comes to the company feeling ready to know how to do this, it's when we feel 100% confident, it's probably too late to start. In my experience, it's the same with companies that do mid-segment and start thinking about enterprise. It will be a trial and error process. You need to sit again to where we started with tailoring an ICP, talking about what you're going to address when you're starting to address that market. And the more customers you're going to talk to, you will be able to tailor your approach to be more and more ready month after month. But I've seen a lot of companies stall and eventually even fail because they waited too long to be ready. Even from a product perspective, yes, I will just give it to Markus from here.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think that's a bit arbitrary answer. It kind of means that everybody needs to go upmarket immediately, and I don't quite think it is like that. So I think there are certain stages of the company evolution where, like, you just need to build one model and focus on one model and do it really well, rather than trying to branch out. Because like, let's say you are a 1 million ARR company and you want to have PLG and some kind of like SMB sales motion and upmarket motion. It's probably it's not sustainable. You can't do it. So I think, like, if you have a well-working machine, like for SMB, then I think like it could be useful to think about certain kind of thresholds of growth, like or like revenue, like where you can actually start or you should start seriously considering like building another motion like on top of it. There was there is this common wisdom like in the company evolution, like that you need to reach 10 million before, like 10 million in ARR before you do like the second motion. I think it's too high. Like so if you are like doing SMB or PLG, like I think 10 million is too much. And there was, especially like for European companies, like it has to be much lower than that. And there was a number of 3 million ARR, and I kind of like that. I think that sounds pretty decent. So like if you have an SMB motion, you can take your company into 3 million and it's still growing. Then at that point, like you need to, it makes sense to start looking into the upmarket motion in parallel of the SMB motion. And I absolutely agree with George. This question about when are we ready, like is asked so often, and you're never ready for anything. Like you just need to start. It is like you need to go with like you can go with crawl, walk, run, like you learn as you do. But if you start thinking about it, probably it's the time to start doing it already.
But I have a question for you, Markus, because I've been thinking about this a lot. And obviously you're right that not every company on the planet needs to go up market. We're only talking about companies that are selling a bit more complex products that can actually have a product that increases your ticket value if you sell to the right accounts based on them being able to be getting a lot of value from the product, right? Because one of the things I'm thinking about as a person who's led a lot of sales teams, I think that when it comes to having one foot in and one foot out, I think that's a challenge, right? Because what I would do if I was running a SaaS company right now, and my goal was to create, we have the SMB motion working, I'm working to digitalize it so I can sort of get that team to be smaller, but it's still working. I would focus on hiring 2-3 salespeople, the same way I would build an enterprise team, 2-3 salespeople who can run next to marketing while we're doing the upstream motion, right? While we're doing the motion that has to do with opening up bigger accounts, because it is a different type of game on the sales side and on the marketing side as well. Because one of the things that I can see is people are sort of testing it out, but they're not committing to it. And that I think is a mistake. Do you agree?
Absolutely. It's exactly like that, which is why you need like an owner for it. Is it the CRO? Is it the CEO? Like somebody who like, it should go to the board level that this our strategic decision, which means that like if you know anything about strategy, it's not going to be a few months, it's going to be a few years. Like this is the direction we're going to take. So I 100%.
And I also think that one of the challenges when it comes to account-based sales is that even if we have a marketing team that understands this, because I feel like a lot of marketing teams are more mature in understanding why this is a smart approach to a market, right? And it's nothing bad on the salespeople. They're just not trained in these topics. Like they don't have the skill sets because it's not trained, because they have been working SMB or mid-segment and they don't think about marketing ways of communicating and opening up accounts while you're trying to target them with salesperson. Because one of the things that I've been thinking about is, so if you do that structure, you also need to have the owner run both. Or do you agree with that, Markus? Or do you think that the owner of the project of running upstream with the group, with the team on the marketing side and on the sales time, should that be the same owner, or should there be a marketing and sales led, like a marketing and sales lead who run this parallelly? What do you think?
Well, it's a tricky one. So I think there are different models to that. So it could be this parallel approach that you have some kind of committee in a sense, but usually it's better to have one person, CRO, CEO, who kind of can own both of the motions. I would say that this is probably one of the biggest challenges, at least I see, is that when the sales motion has been built to support this SMB approach, it's I have to say that I haven't seen a single case where it would have been successful to transition those salespeople to do upmarket. So it's almost always you need new new people like who actually know how to do it. Or as one company did it, is that they forced it. So they just kind of cut completely the SMB from certain reps, so you can't do anymore. You are not allowed to do SMB anymore. You only do these target accounts, and obviously, they want their commission, so then they just need to deal with it and manage it somehow.
So incentive and force might be required. George, I know that you have been in these situations plenty of times. Let's jump over to you.
Yeah, no, I wanted to say, to complement what Markus said, I absolutely agree that this is, of course, you should ease people in, but then there also needs to be a line in the sand that at the end of the day, it's not a community decision what the company strategy will be. I see that a lot with sales teams, that there is a directive coming from marketing or even from the CEO, and especially high performers will say, no, but I don't believe in this. And to which I have to say, great, but you're not making board decisions. So I would ask you to kindly go in the direction that I'm asking you to go. And I have to add one more thing. I know that both sales managers and salespeople will identify with, because I think when we're talking to marketing, we're lying as salespeople very often. What we say is we don't believe in the strategy. What happens is that SMB has a lot of goddamn inbound. And we don't want to do outbound. We don't want to pick up phones. We don't want to call the email. We don't want to go on LinkedIn. We don't want to multi-thread. We don't want to put the effort in that a 1 million ticket ARR deal has. We want to be comfy and cozy and do the 3 to 4 users on SMB because it's easy and it gives us dopamine. And over time, maybe if we're lucky, we reach budget and we get paid. But it's management needs to really push people out of their comfort zone. One, because it's their job to make executive decisions. And a lot of people are, to be very blunt, are very gun shy when it comes to these things. I heard a lot of both CMOs and CROs tell me, it's like, but the organization doesn't take good to it. It's like, yeah, but that's also half of your assignment to figure it out, of how to implement it. It's not theirs. And the other end of it is has to do with people not understanding that it also stalls their growth. Because if you're, for the audience and for the people that will listen to this on demand after, if you're planning to stay employed anywhere as an inbound AE or an inbound salesperson, forget about it. There is no shot this is happening. Your career will just stop developing after a point. I know, because as Sarah said, first of all, because I'm leading teams already, I also consult in a lot of companies and talk to their management teams. As Sarah said, sales teams will become smaller because the delivery, to be transparent, is just not good enough. Most people are delivering under 40% of annual budget. And this is not because we're not teaching ourselves new things. We're not doing the things that Markus was talking about now, or Sarah is talking about, because we're comfortable. So we need to also, I want us to also at some point move away from the corporate speak when it comes to, percentage of adoption and people are hesitant and talk about what is actually happening in this organization. And I haven't met a single salesperson, probably besides Sarah, that really, really likes outbound. Most people are scared of it. So if you give them a list of 10 accounts with help of marketing, which to me is not called outreach anymore, but I digress, they still don't want to do it. And this is the problem as a manager. It doesn't really matter in that sense. If you have a solid strategy, it's your job to educate your teams on why this is good for the team, why it is good for them as individuals. It's not for them to see a presentation from me or Markus on ABM and say, "Oh, I get it because I'm 25 now and I understand 6-year strategy." They won't and they shouldn't. Sorry, I went on a rant, but that is my I've got muted before a censorship in a webinar. Yeah, anyway, that was my 2 cents. I forgot what I was about to say.
Thank you, George. The rants are amazing. I will actually move over to the next thing now because we have 20 minutes left, right? And I want to be able to do Q&A. But by the way, we might not have time for Q&A, so put your questions in the question tab and I will push them. And if we don't answer in the webinar, we will tell you afterwards. I will DM you with the answer. I want to move over to, so we now understand that there is a need to move. We see some challenges with comfort, which I agree with. And I want to get from both of you, so how do you do this? How can we build a scalable playbook for transferring over from the spray and pray and the transactional mindsets we have as organizations into an account-based sales and marketing go-to-market and structure for our organizations? And I will leave it to you guys to decide who wants to take it. I see that Markus is eager. I'm going to leave it to Markus. Here we go.
Great. So this this transition, I mean, we already now discussed this quite a bit, and what my experience is that marketing is usually willing to take this change. Like they are like kind of understanding what's needed, like from marketing perspective, and sales isn't. George talked about it in a beautiful way just a moment ago. So there is a clear like disconnect, which often happens. But then I think like in order to get to a point where you can even think about a scalable playbook, so you need to have this alignment, and maybe wrapping or summing up a bit like what we just discussed, you need to have somebody who owns this whole ABX motion. And typically what I like to use as a kind of let's say criteria for, is this really something that the company wants to do, is it discussed in the board? Like is this ABX in the level that the CEO talks about it, or like even the management team talks about it with the board, and the board understands what it is like and why are we doing it? When you get to that level, then you can start like looking into like actually scaling it. But I think like not many companies are at this stage, so it's super hard to get to this point. So once like you have all of these things, you have an owner, like you have the board support, marketing knows what they're doing, sales knows what they're doing, maybe also product is like aligned with this, CS is aligned with this, you have everything in place, then you can start to scale. And I don't think actually the scaling is hard after this, because then like the scaling is actually starting from your ICP again. Like it just starts from like finding and iterating and scaling your ICP, which means not necessarily in a way that you just add new accounts, but you find new segments that require new kind of messaging. You learn to like how to convert those from cold to hot, and then like how to do the sales process and so forth. So I would say that I think scaling is less commonly the problem, and it's more about getting to a point where you have anything to scale, because it's just so difficult to build this kind of aligned motion.
Right. So before we go into building a scalable playbook, we need to get buy-in from the highest level, so we can then push that into a playbook to just deliver on it. And actually, Carl had a question. I will push it up on the screen. We should be able to see it, I think. Wait, no, it didn't work. His question was, what common pitfalls do you see companies doing when they are attempting transition? And the second question is, how do you avoid it? So that's for you, Markus. I know you've been in several projects like this, and for George as well, because this is a challenge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like this will sound like a broken record, but the most common pitfall is about the sales, like exactly what like George was talking about. So not being able to transition from an inbound based sales motion into an outbound based sales motion. It's usually as simple as that. If you have an outbound based sales motion already, or people who can do outbound, and they have an option to do cold outbound, so just randomly target any of these accounts, or do warm outbound where marketing is warming these accounts up, any smart salesperson is going to choose those warm accounts. So it won't be hard to get to that point. So I think like that's the most common pitfall, and like you'll drop into that like in cases where, for instance, marketing is trying to push this alone, that you don't take this, you don't kind of assign this to the management level. And then I would say in the management level also, they need understanding of what this is, in a way that it's not about lead generation, it's not about, you know, turning inbound into account-based inbound, because that's kind of the common pitfall that I see, that people, you know, whether it's CFO, whether it's the board, whether it's the CEO, like I think that when we add this ABM into our approach, our inbound magically turns into, you know, high quality, like we'll start to get these high quality leads from these ICP accounts. No, it won't work like that. It's like it's a way to make your this ICP-led cold outbound, warm outbound, and like just align the motions around it.
I need to add a couple of things now, both to Carl's question, and I also feel like a bit like a traitor to my people, talking down on sales. So I need to sort of even it out a bit. So what happens is that, so how to avoid the pitfalls, to what Carl said, right? So the first thing is multi-level buy-in. This is not an initiative, just to be transparent. This is not an initiative you can half-ass. Either the organization is behind it or they aren't. We don't have it's a complex motion. It's a very profitable motion. It needs a lot of effort to get started with it. And it's like going to the gym. It takes a while to give amazing results, right? It's not, it's something that you need to commit to. And the second thing that I want to mention is that if I were a CEO of a company that wants to go that direction, what I would do is bring my CMO and my CRO in a room and do a therapy session. And I'm being very serious now, like couples therapy, because sales and marketing flat out in most organizations hate each other. And I will explain why I hated marketing on my end, and why the narrative that we're running today didn't fly with me, especially when we say, this will pay off in a year. It's like, yeah, but as a CRO, I'm sitting on this chair in every town hall meeting, in every all hands, with a budget on my lap that you're asking me to fill. In a year, I might not have a job if I continue missing it. So I respect your strategy, but I also like to pay rent and stuff. So it's a disconnect. Usually there is a big disconnect in urgency between sales and marketing. I've been to many companies where the CMO or head of marketing goes into a session and reports on website visits and reports on MQLs or marketing qualified leads, and all of these things are well and good. Most organizations don't even have targets for these things. We just show a graph that it goes up, and that's great. And the perception is always that marketing has half the pressure that sales have. And the perception is true, because at the end of the day, it is sales that close the quarter. And in my opinion, as a CEO, or even as a CMO, if you're listening to this and you want to convince your counterpart, you need to address this. And you need to say, I know that you guys are under pressure, right? You know that it's your head on the chopping board at the end of the day, not mine. Or unless maybe mine is second, but it's not the first. So show understanding. So this is something that is, I understand that it's hard for you guys. It's hard for you to buy into it. It's hard for you to sell it to your team. But there are incremental stages when you're implementing ABX. Yes, the big benefit will come in 6 months, in a year and a half, that you start getting qualitative high-ticket inbound, because that's the end goal, right? However, if you train your salespeople into ICP, if you start working up these accounts and you are half decent in outreach, you will start getting some results within a few months from implementation. And this is the point that I would lead with, either as a CEO or as a CMO, that we both have benefits, and there are smaller, more tangible, more short-term benefits now, and some of them, the big ones, will come in a while. because there needs to be an incentive. Because sales can't think 2 years ahead when everybody is pressuring them. Yes, Markus.
Yeah, so this is super good. Good point. I think like you are touching a very interesting area, which is what I think CRO should still be able to look at, like so the strategic versus tactical time frame. So the next quarter versus like a year from now, which is actually like this big difference. I really liked or loved this story, Sarah, from you. As an individual contributor, you were kind of doing a strategic approach yourself. Like you were thinking that, okay, when I just do this consistently, the reward will be at the end. And I think this is one of the reasons why you need the board like to kind of buy this in, or the CEO to buy this in, because even though I'm not like, and I wouldn't suggest that let's transition 100%. Like let's only focus on this long term and like forget about the short term. Like it has to be a balance. And I think this is, I think, George, you are absolutely right that this is probably the biggest problem in the language. Like I think marketing also suffers from it. So when marketing is forced to do only short term, they actually can't really deliver proper value. So I think that's where the main misalignment comes from. And if the CRO happens to be like like not really thinking, or like not having the strategic like side in this person's like mandate, then you need somebody who has this mandate, like to think strategy and kind of fix these things, that it's okay, we will have a bit less of the quotas this quarter and next quarter, and then we expect that we will get more like third quarter and fourth quarter. But it has to be that kind of thing. I think this is really the key area. And I've seen a lot of this kind of the other side, where kind of the CRO or sales and the organization forces marketing only to do short term, and that's also like that won't lead anywhere either. That's a really, really bad approach.
And this is such an interesting point of view, because I have never really understood, like it blows my mind that me as a salesperson, that they don't see the what's in it for me. Like if I get to work with 10, 15, 20, 30 accounts a year, I get to really get to know the accounts, right? If I get help from marketing to do that, connect and start dialogues, like this is the best part of the job. I get to know organizations really well. I get to do research. I get to talk to them about things that actually matters to them. Like for me, all of these things, because we have a lot of discussions that is like, but I don't want to do outbound and I don't want to do the activity levels that is required. Like this is your path to not have to do that number of activities on new accounts every day. Like you can go from doing 3 really good emails a month from doing cold calling every day. Like why wouldn't you want to do that as a salesperson? Like I love that part, because I get to really help accounts. I get to find problems that they don't know about and solve them for them. Like this is, and again, I'm a very engaged IC when I am in an IC role, but for me, this is the funnest part of the job. And it also takes away all of the things that is uncomfortable. Calling 20 people a day that you don't know and that you haven't done research on because you haven't had the time, because you need to call 80 to get to talk to 20. That is what is the hassle of this job. And why would you want to prefer doing that when you can talk to 5, 6, 10 people in an account and really get to know them, right? And bring value. So that's one of the aspects that I don't get why I say, what is the problem for salespeople here? Like for me, this is a given thing to want to move towards. And I think it's about the different type of skill sets you have, right? And who's training you? The other part on the marketing side that I think is very interesting is that if I can do tailored account campaigns that are really tailored to companies' specific challenges, again, that's all the good stuff. So these things feel so self-explanatory to me why this is a better way to approach it. And still we have the challenges with different lingo and we don't understand each other. And I want to ask you, Markus, since you've been sitting with a lot of customers who come from the marketing side to you to use platforms for this, what do they face when they go to their management team? Like what do they normally face? What stubbornness is there that they get to address in the sessions they have?
I don't think many companies ever get to that point. So usually it's kind of this half-hearted type thing. So marketing does something, sales is saying that interesting, looks good, sounds good, but they keep doing the same old thing very often. And so you don't really get to that point that there would be an objection apart from in the end, when you are running this ABM motion, marketing is excited, you get a lot of this vanity type results, website visits and hot accounts, whatever, and sales is saying that, okay, that's great, but then in the end we didn't convert anything, and marketing actually doesn't know did they actually do anything with those accounts. Most likely they didn't. And then the end conclusion is that ABX doesn't work for our company, and they didn't even try. This is unfortunately what we see very often, and I think the main problem again is that there is no kind of strategic ownership of this within the company.
So too little force. We're giving choices to the left and right here where we shouldn't be as a board and as a management team. So this needs to be, go ahead, George.
No, can I add something to this? It's interesting because I was just having this conversation with the manager, CRO, just before we jumped into this, when it comes to internal detractors and also when it comes to hiring process. And I feel that unfortunately this is not a quick fix, but it's a mentality question, right? So I feel that management should not be afraid to both hire and fire people for mentality. Because if people are problem oriented, because all of what we're discussing now, if you're rejecting ideas before testing them, if you find blockers in everything, it's no, this is not going to work. This is a problem-oriented person. The difference to what you did, Sarah, not waiting for other people to solve this for you and found and researched benefits on your own, that had the curiosity. This is a solution-oriented mindset, and it's a growth mindset. If you're hiring people because they look good on paper, you don't test them, your HR doesn't vet them enough, you don't spend enough time with them, and you just hire people that are like you because you like them, then you will end up with a CRO that is a bit too short-sighted and hard to shift because he's too strong-headed, with a head of sales that is the same, with a head of marketing that is the same. So it comes from the top, and we need to make, if we want to grow, we need to make the hard decisions. So if you have a person in your team that complains about everything over a year, it's time to part ways. And the same with the hiring process. You need to look for solution-oriented people. Otherwise, it's not only ABX, it's any initiative that we're going to bump into trouble every time. And it's most companies, unfortunately or fortunately, don't have time for that where we are if they want to be profitable. So that's my 2 cents.
I will actually ask both of you to give one advice now. So what should people listening today do tomorrow? I will start with George because he's very fast in mind, and I will give Markus a minute to think about it. But just an advice. What would you advise today to do tomorrow?
I mean, it depends what role you're in. I would say in all roles, look at case studies, look at material, how this actually functions before you judge anything. Ask companies that have done it. But if you're in any sales role, make your own 5-account shortlist and try yourself to understand how this functions. Because the benefits for you will be immediate. And go out and instead of, I think somebody mentioned it in the chat, instead of pushing to pitch them, just call and ask them questions. So I feel that my solution is a great fit for this type of company. You, of course, know more than me. Enlighten me. Am I correct? And then do that for a bit, and you will see results. I can tell you as a rep, when I was in that slot, you will see results this quarter, 100% on this.
I agree with that. Markus, what is your advice?
So I would say, again, of course, depending on the role, but now assuming that there is willingness to go up market, to get these higher ACV deals, I think it is what you should do. or try to do is to start convincing the go-to-market leader, CEO, CRO, like that this is a strategic thing. And if we don't do it, we probably are going to miss out on the growth targets in the long term. Like that, this is something that I don't think any company can omit this decision. And I also think that this can be championed by anybody in the organization. So it doesn't have to kind of start from the top, but this can be coming from like a marketing contributor. It can come from the CMO, from like even a sales contributor. It is like very much possible. This is very logical. I think like the audience hears that it's not rocket science. It's like we just need to have everybody working together, and it will work out. So if you get and start convincing the leadership that it makes sense to start looking into this, I think that will can make a big difference.
Thank you. And I will wrap up with my advice. I put 2 advices for CMOs and CROs in the chat. But my advice, if you are a CEO and you're thinking about doing something related to this, so George and Markus is on LinkedIn, hit them up, invite them to a joint lunch online, and just talk to them. They will feed you with all the things you need to get this started and give you expertise. They will give you an hour for free together in a lunch. And just use the people around you. I'm selling your time for free. Use the people around you who has competence. We are here. And just get up to speed on what you need to do for your business. So that is what we will wrap this webinar up with. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Thank you, Markus. Thank you, George. It's been a pleasure talking about this topic. Super exciting. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next webinar that you can find on our event page on breakthebox.se. And have a good evening, guys. Talk to you all soon. Bye.